All right, we did our 6 shifts. You're focusing on strategy now. And I'm going to go deeper over the next few episodes and on this season, how to get more strategic, how to get less reactive. So let's get going. This episode is all dealing with being neutral and how you have to present neutrally if you're going to go into a difficult divorce. Because you're not judged on what you think, what's going on internally. You're just judged by your outward actions. And I want to set you up in your case so you're going to get the most fair deal you can. And the only way to do that, or at least the best way I found to do that, is to act neutrally. I'm Corey Shapiro. This is the Getting Divorced Without Losing Your Mind podcast. And I'm going to give you 2 examples to explain what I'm talking about. Now, example number 1 is what not to do. It's that time that, say, 11 p.m., you are low energy, you are overwhelmed, you're flooded, you are angry. And you get that text that just sets you off. And next thing you know, you're just firing back. Maybe you even publish something on social media because how dare they? And let me just relate to you for a moment. I'm not saying you're not justified in feeling angry. I'm not saying that. And I know you're grieving. Maybe you didn't want this divorce or you didn't want a difficult divorce. But this doesn't give you the right to just act any way you can. Everything you do is going to be used against you, so be careful. Okay? So that's what not to do. Now, what to do? Let's say you're angry. Let's say you're just a little bit of a dominant person and you are aggressive. You just want this done and now it's getting to be difficult. You gave a fair offer. Why can't it be done? So then you're like, you know what? You're going to show the other side. You hire the most expensive attorneys you can find. They're $1,000+ an hour. You're going to come to war and you are angry. And the attorneys tell you one thing. They say, you don't say anything. You don't write anything. You don't text anything without us looking at it. Do you understand? When we go to court, you don't open your mouth. You don't roll your eyes. You sit there with the poker face. And if you can't do that, then we're not the attorneys for you. And we're telling you this only because we want to do a certain strategy and we want to be the most effective we can. And that's the type of case I had. I had a case where this guy, I can feel his energy, but he never, ever said anything in court, never texted, never emailed, nothing, no slip-ups, and had expensive attorneys. So that's the kind of help some people need. So you got examples of what not to do, let your emotions get the better of you, and what to do if you are just so angry and you're just going to act out and you need heavyweight attorneys or heavyweight therapists helping you out. That's the help you need. Okay. Let me put my lawyer hat on and tell you why I'm doubling down here. First of all, credibility is everything in court. It's not, you have to understand, it's not about the truth. It's not about the truth. It's about the perception of the truth. That's a big difference. The perception of the truth. That's why so many people are on death row after DNA and they cleared them years later. Because again, it's not about the truth and the perception of the truth. And we're just humans and we have bias. Okay. And if you have outbursts and you act a certain way, it has nothing to do with your case. The judge is human. And they may just rule against you. Okay. You have to think judges are prejudging you on every issue. This is not resolving things in a vacuum. Sort of reminds me of the difference between taking a test in school where the teacher knows you, knows if you came to class, knows if you tried your best, and gives you the benefit of the doubt. Okay? Or knows if you didn't come to class and acted out. It may go against you. Versus a standardized test. Divorce is not a standardized test. They know you. They prejudge you. And in a standardized test, you're just a number. They don't know how hard you worked or your intentions. They just judge you binary. Is it right or wrong? So think of that. Second thing I want to tell you is attorneys capitalize. There's some attorneys who capitalize on your bad behavior. And, if the bad behavior, if this is your mom or grandparent, they're not looking at it positively. They're not looking at your behavior positively, like a positive perspective. Everything is looked at negatively. And these attorneys are so crafty, they can literally make Mother Teresa look bad, or at least try to. And they don't care. They're advocates. They're getting paid to do a job. And the third thing I want you to understand, and this is a hard one, that role of you and your spouse, that's over. And I have had divorces with people who have been in years in divorce litigation, and they can't understand that. You have certain roles. You have a role as a spouse. You have a role as a parent. The role as a spouse, over. And I understand this is really hard. I'm trying to understand. I haven't been through a divorce myself, but I was thinking, how can I relate here? And the only thing I can think about is what happens with aging parents. Your parents, as you get older, are not who they were when you were growing up, when they were in their prime. And you are not who you were. You're now an adult. You're fully formed. But if your parents are anything like my parents, they still think they're in their prime and they still think I'm a child. And that's not the reality. But the only difference I see between a divorce and dealing with aging parents is that this happens overnight sometimes. I had years to adjust to my parents, especially my father getting older. But it's a difference if on one day you thought the relationship or your marriage was okay, and next thing you know, boom, they want out. They want a divorce. How can this be? All right, so here's some objections, which I'm going to hear from you. I know you're thinking this. What am I going to do with my emotions? What are you going to do with your emotions? Well, I didn't say you're not going to have these emotions. You are. You have to understand that divorce, we're being strategic. The outburst of emotions is not the time for, it's doing like the offstage work. When you're on stage, you have to act a certain way. And I understand grieving takes years, and this is hard to do. And sometimes you're just going to have to hide behind your attorney, hide with a mediator, or do what you can to just really not jeopardize your case. And I know that's hard. You have to understand that this is a process, that this is a civil process. And I know it feels uncivil, but it's a process. And I know it's a competition, but I want you to think of this more like chess than like the UFC or a boxing match. It's not the UFC. We don't punch people. We don't choke them out. Hopefully we get to the point we don't even scream and yell. It's a chess game. So what I mean by that is you got to think long-term, and you got to be eye on the ball. And that's what we're doing here on this podcast now. We're shifting gears. We're getting into strategy. And if you're feeling at this point, wow, this is a lot, we're getting real here. Well, that's why I started the season on the foundation, but we're moving forward. Okay, so what's my core message to you? Being neutral isn't weak. It's strategic. And my action step for you is, this is what I want you to think about. What would I want a judge to know about? And would I want the judge to know about this? That 11 p.m. text, would you want the judge to know about this? The judge can relate to self-composure, being upset. The judge can relate to that. But once you go to court or you're in settlement discussions, you got to comport yourself a certain way, or you're just risking the other side capitalizing. And this is so important that in our next episode, I'm going to introduce to you a foundational concept about how to get more persuasive. I call it being the clear method. And, when you're in negotiations and you're divorced, especially the first few years, you have a reduced capacity. So I'm going to teach you the clear method, step by step, to becoming more persuasive, so this won't be so hard for you. I'm Corey Shapiro. Let's step forward with clarity together.
This podcast offers general information only. It cannot replace legal advice. If you need tailored advice, contact an attorney licensed to practice in your area.